joining us for our regular scheduled board meeting on May 14th, 2024. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bottom roll call, please.
Mayor Gold.
Here.
Trustees Amos.
Here.
Brockman.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Luciano.
Here.
And Southbridge.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum to conduct village business this evening. With that, we will move into our citizens section. Are there any citizens wishing to address the village board this evening? Seeing none, we will move into our consent agenda for tonight. Item number 1 will be approval of the regular board meeting minutes for April 23, 2024. Second will be approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes of April 23, 2024. Approval of accounts payable in the amount of $1,827,754.44. Item 4 will be approval of the payment of the Grand Prairie Water Commission funds in the amount of $10,801.03 to Engineering Enterprises for the Technical Advisory Working Group administration fees. Item 5 is approval of the payment in the amount of $10,000 to Joanne Ambrosic for Sile Road temporary construction easement. Number 6 would be approval of a payment in the amount of $74,923.42 for Performance Pipeline for the sanitary sewer rehabilitation basin number 6 project. And item number 7 would be approval of the payment in the amount of $110,000 to the Grand Prairie Water Commission administrative dues on the Village of Shorewood's behalf. Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda?
Mayor, one question, and it's more of a clarification from Ann. I asked the question last meeting. There's expenses related to Grand Prairie Water Commission, and I think it's been talked about, but not here. There's 2 items. There's a Grand Prairie Water Commission fund that I think you talked about last time, where expenses out of there we're approving, but the commission's approving as paying expenses. But there was items for travel related to Grand Prairie Water Commission. Are those reimbursed, or those were our own village funds? Can you just clarify that?
Let me chime in on that. Those are not reimbursed right now. The City of Joliet, in regards to that, the City of Joliet, as the project manager, had already been sending the project manager on different travel in regards to that. When the recent trip to DC on behalf of the Water Commission came up, the governmentally covered their employee, the Village of Shorewood was going to cover their employee, and it came out of the travel expenses, no different than if a trustee went to IML or another type of conference.
Okay, so those expensive items weren't reimbursed. Okay, but it's the fund that's different.
I've got a question on that. As far as that's concerned, the trip was for Shorewood, or was it for the commission?
For the commission. I chair the commission.
So wouldn't the commission reimburse you for that rather than the village? Why would the taxpayers of the village reimburse? I'm curious.
Sure. Otherwise, since the City of Joliet had already had the program manager, the City of Joliet had already established precedent in covering those expenses and not deeming the Water Commission for constant reimbursements. They covered it.
I don't understand that part. I'm confused about that, because I would think another entity that sent their representatives to someplace for them would be the ones that reimburse that individual. I don't even know why the village would reimburse that individual. Why we wouldn't be paying that out of the funds we already have here.
Again, we established it based on precedent with the City of Joliet already covering the program manager, making multiple trips to DC on behalf of the commission, and the City of Joliet was already covering.
No, I understand that part, but that's something I think that this board should decide. If we're going to do it for Shorewood, they decided to do it for them. That's something I think this board needs to.
Well, keep in mind the formal commission is established in about 30 days.
I understand that. My point is this: in the future, will the village be reimbursing members of the commission for business to go on for the commission?
No, because you will have the formal board of commissioners will be established.
All right, then, what's different about that than this?
President, we're still operating under a pre-IGA. You do not have an official board of commissioners in place.
I'm not understanding. I think that the village should be reimbursed out of the funds that we carry here for that. That's just my opinion on it. But go ahead.
Thank you. Any other comments regarding tonight's consent agenda? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Chapman, second trustee Selfridge. Roll call, please.
Brockman,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
Yes.
and Amos.
All right, that moves us into reports and communications for this evening. Lana, have you received anything other than the proclamation for the City for Public Works?
No, sir.
All right, we do have a proclamation for this evening recognizing National Public Works Week. National Public Works Week proclamation, May 19th through 25th, 2024. Their motto for this year is Advancing Quality of Life for All. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the village of Shorewood. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the village of Shorewood to gain knowledge and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and the public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association. Be it now resolved, I, Mayor Clarence DeVault, do hereby designate the week of May 19th through 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the state of Illinois. We will sign the proclamation and we'll send it over with Mr. Plizet to take back to Public Works and thank your staff for everything that they do. We know there's a large spectrum that Public Works does entail, from snow services to cutting grass to sewer and water main breaks. It's all inclusive.
And we thank all of you for recognizing that.
Thank you, sir. With that, we'll move into this evening's order of business. Item number 1 will be consideration for approval of the appointment of John Goolsby to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 2-year term. We do have one vacancy left from the Planning and Zoning Commissioner. Mr. Goolsby did attend the last Planning and Zoning Commission, and Trustee Brockman, anything you want to add?
I give you my notes on him, but I don't think you can read them, so.
No worries, go ahead, I'll let you.
I may not be able to read them, to tell you the truth. But John, I spoke to him about a year ago, in anticipation of maybe a position open. And so he's been looking forward to this. He graduate of Manuka High School in 2004. He attended University of Toledo on a football scholarship, and then he transferred to the University of St. Francis for a bachelor's in marketing and a master's in business administration. He and his wife Megan moved to Shorewood in 2011. They have 3 children. She's a math teacher in Manuka. Works for Bridge Specialty Group, which is an insurance company, and he's a regional operations manager there. Sits on the school board at the Holy Family Church, golf committee for Holy Family fundraiser, and he's a member of Knights of Columbus. So he sat in, like you said, in our last meeting, and, he gave us Scott and I, the thumbs up, after a couple of days, so, I'm, like to make a motion unless you wanna say anything about Scott.
No, after that list, I'm wondering where he's gonna find time, but I'm excited where the board's going. We've got, some people that are leaving, but we still have
Yeah, that's right.
experienced members and new members that can learn from all of them, so, no.
But, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of John Goolsby to Planning and Zoning Commission for a 2-year term.
Second.
Motion Brockman, second Selfridge, roll call please.
Carol,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
And Brockman.
Yes.
Item 1's been approved. Item number 2 will be consideration for approval of the emergency purchase and payment in the amount not to exceed $20,000 to High Star Traffic for detour route signage and barricade for the Sile Road Bridge partial closure. With that, Ms. Burkholder and Mr. Blizet, kind of want to update a little more on that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. As you're probably aware by now, the partial closure of the Sile Road Bridge necessitated some purchases of barricades, signs, and other related materials in order to not impede that closure. They did want to get moving, and that did need the ramifications of the emergency purchase clause in our purchasing policy. So in order to cross our T's and dot our I's, so to speak, the purchase is here to be approved. These 3 quotes here together total about $16,000. As I understand, and perhaps Jacques can fill in the blanks, IDOT does have to come do an inspection of the closure work that has been done, and they may recommend some modifications which could necessitate some further purchases. So this may not be the totality of our expense for that project.
Yes, we should have a good idea within the next week or two, any additional signage or changes in signage or barricades, things like that that are going to be required from IDOT. And once we have those, then everything will be in place and the expenses will be finalized.
And then just in general regarding to the Sile Road Bridge, obviously this was due to after last year IDOT came out and did their inspection, the bridge was reduced down to the 5-ton weight limit. This is the annual re-inspection. They found additional deterioration in the outer beams, and when those reports were submitted over to IDOT, the consensus was you could maintain a single lane over the good spans of the bridge in the middle without reducing the 5-ton weight limit. So once we have a little further information, we will work with the engineering firm and see what some options are regarding temporary repair. Do we leave it at that? Where do we potentially sit with the grant funding that was scheduled in 28? If there's any way of moving that up, there's some land acquisition we're still working on finalizing, so we just don't have all the answers on that yet. But to our residents also, please bear with us by allowing that the bridge flow to the west, take an alternate route going east over to that intersection right now, and thus far we haven't seen any backups. Fortunately, we haven't had any calls from any of the neighborhoods, so it appears that most people have found alternate routes without disturbing and creating impacts to the neighborhood. So far so good, but there will be more to come in regards to this bridge. But otherwise, we do need a motion to approve the purchase.
So moved. Second.
Motion trustee Amos, second trustee Chapman. Roll call, please.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
And Carol.
Yes.
Item 2's been approved. Item number 3 will be consideration for approval of an annual appropriations ordinance for the village of Shorewood, Will County, Illinois for the fiscal year beginning April 1, 2024, ending March 31st, 2025. This item is up for a first read. Ms. Burkholder.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the first read of our appropriations ordinance. This does represent our legal spending authority. We do operate within the confines of the budget, but that appropriation gives us the legal mechanism to implement everything that we've budgeted and then anything emergent that we might not have been able to plan for in the budget process. We do put a a 25% increase over the budget to account for anything that we couldn't see coming. The only difference between the budget amount and the appropriation amount is we moved that bond issuance from the capital projects fund to the capital improvement fund, just to account for the difference in the technicalities there on the difference in our YMCA transaction. We're not able to take any action on this tonight. We do need a public hearing, and in order to make those publication deadlines, we will take this back at our first meeting in June.
Anybody have any questions regarding the appropriations orders in the meantime? All right, seeing none, we will move into business item number 4. Be a discussion of a concept plan for a self-storage facility on the southeast frontage road. So be Trustee Brockman and Ms. Engel. Again, this is just a concept plan, so there'll be a couple of these tonight. There's no action being taken. It's just going to allow the petitioner to kind of present the ideas and get the board's feedback. So with that,
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just make a few comments and then turn it over to Natalie, but I think the commissioners really received it very well. I think the biggest hurdle there will be keeping the lights off of the 8 or 9 homes that are going to front this. So Natalie, you want to speak to that a little bit, please?
Sure.
Project.
Okay, so the biggest thing with this is going to be explaining where it is. This is a property you probably didn't realize was in Shorewood. It is on the east side of 55, just south of, it's south of 52. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you can see it. The Timber Ridge subdivision by Kipling Estates is to the north. There are 9 houses fronting southeast frontage road, part of the Skyview subdivision. That are to the east of it. On the west, there's agricultural property. It is directly across 55 from the old public works site, north of an industrial park. So it's one little appendage that we have in that area that is in Shorewood, and everything surrounding it will ultimately be the city of Joliet. The proposal is for an 85,000 square foot climate controlled building that's shown in dark purple. There's 15,000 square feet of your traditional storage units. What's shown in gray is the parking and circulation areas, the stormwater management areas, some of which will be wet and some of which will be dry, is shown in blue, and then the typical landscaping is shown in green. Access to the property is going to be from Frontage Road, so the area that's circled in orange, and then people will travel along the south end of the property to the main bulk of it, which is where the storage buildings are. Circled in green is the entrance. There will be a gate in that area where people can proceed back to the lot. And then there's some parking as well in front of the building, on the outside of the gate, and inside the gate as well. This is not a 24-hour facility. It's a staffed facility that will be open approximately 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. The climate control building is basically on the southwest part of the site. Southeast part of the site, I'm sorry. It is adjacent to the property with a little bit of a setback, and it will essentially act as a screen from the storage area. 30 feet from any other building, 21 feet from the west property line, 110 feet from the south property line. At the corner shown in orange is a little office area. There will be common loading area behind the gates, which is shown in green, and then on the north side there are some individual storage units. And this is what the building will look like. As I said, it's 85,000 square feet. It'll be 3 stories tall, which is about 40 feet tall. The main entrance is at the southeast corner, That's what you see with the windows. That's what you'll see from the street. Loading areas on the west side. There's the 2 doors that you see, and then on the north side you'll have the smaller doors. Everything will be sort of earth tone color scheme like what you see in the roll-up doors, although they're shown in gray on the picture, will actually be a complementary color. The 9 climate control buildings are similar to what you see. There are some buildings that I just highlighted in green along the perimeter. Those will act as a screen for the surrounding residences. They're 20 feet deep by 10 feet wide, so about the size of a single car garage. And then highlighted in blue, in the middle, there are some other units. They're all 10 feet wide, but the depths vary, so some are 10 by 10, some are 30 feet wide, and then there are some smaller units on the north and south end of those buildings. They basically designed it so it turns in on itself and you don't see a bunch of doors from the neighboring properties. So the green buildings and the big building, along with what I just highlighted in dark green, which is the fence, will basically provide a screen from the neighbors.
Natalie, are those green buildings also 3-story?
No, they're just 1 story.
1 story?
Yeah. And then you can kind of see what they look like down the bottom. It's pretty typical of what you see, similar to what is out on County Line Road. So the applicant is here if you have any questions of them, and certainly if you have any comment or feedback. Property is zoned ORI, so we would have to do some type of a conditional use or rezoning, but we'd love your feedback. And then if you're supportive of it, the applicant will start drawing up the plans and get it ready for your approval.
Natalie, what's to the east of that property?
To the east of the property, it's farmed right now.
It's still farmed to the east.
Yeah, you can see it a little bit. Oh, no, it's not. To the east is it's farmland.
Okay.
This was originally farmed, and it looks like this area stopped being farmed when 55 went in, and it just kind of went vacant field and trees and stuff.
And where are they gonna pull water?
The water,
That's been discussed.
let's see. The water's kind of in the blue areas.
No, not stormwater, but where would they pull municipal water?
It will come from Joliet.
Okay. Sewer just gonna be septic on site then? I
Yes,
can't imagine.
Or they'll connect to Joliet. They haven't really gone into the engineering yet.
That's fine.
The whole thought was, is the use acceptable? If the use is acceptable,
Sure.
we'll get into the details.
I would have to agree, as trustee Brockman said, I don't think it's a problem. I think the key would be is making sure that those residents, that there's not light spillage,
Into there, so it's not disrupting them.
gated property. I think that'll help keep it controlled in that regard.
To that end, what's being done, and how do you mitigate that?
So we'll make sure that any lights are shielded, and low enough that they don't, expand onto the property. I guess the other thing too, there will be lighting within the units, and there will be whatever type of, sprinkler systems or anything, or alarms that the fire department needs, but they're not planning to have any electrical for the renters to be able to use. So we'll make sure that any of the lights are directed away from the properties and don't spill out onto it, and, obviously nobody else will be able to put any other lights in.
Will it be like sometimes there's rental and U-Haul type businesses?
They're not gonna do all.
It would just be the storage.
I know the petitioner's here. Would you guys be doing the entire project in one shot, or are you trying to maybe do it in segments? Any thought?
Natalie, unless you know that.
I don't know, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
At this point, yeah, I think at this point, we're kind of looking at our options. We wanted to see how you guys would accept the project this evening. Probably either gonna do the climate control first or the uncontrolled spaces. Kind of going back and forth, wanting to get your feedback, but like one trustee said, we were gonna have our stormwater detention to the northwest. That would give us a nice buffer from the neighbors there to our west.
No, that's fine, very good. Yeah, otherwise, thank you. I mean, as I said, trustee Brockman, through planning and zoning, I agree, that probably the biggest concern is just to make sure light spillage doesn't interfere with those residents.
Was there a vote on this, trustee?
No,
Brown?
it's just a concept.
Just a concept, like, what was the review through planning and zoning? Acceptable? I thought you-
Scott, would you concur that I think was pretty well received by everybody?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any negative comments. I think there's questions on the lighting, making sure, I think there's gonna be a privacy offense, not to the east, because the building's gonna block that, but the rest of the perimeter would have a privacy fence, so it should have enough, I think, buffer. And to the east is technically Joliet, right? So it's farmland now, and it's not Shorewood residents, so we can't control what goes there anyway.
Yeah, and that's industrial to the south, recall that's Rovanco's piece to the south, so.
Just one more question for me. When do you plan to, if it's a go for it, when do you plan on starting?
As soon as possible.
Okay.
So will this compete with Joliet's? They're gonna tear down the hotel there in 52?
Sure.
That's all.
The rental, the storage would end up competing against them, sure.
So because it's gonna go to the south, so how far is that from where you guys are at now? On the frontage road?
Say the answer?
I guess it'd be over a mile down to answer your question. You wonder how far?
Yeah, it's down a little ways.
From 52,
Yeah, I'd say at least a mile south.
be a mile.
Okay.
From what we understand from their marketing research, the climate control building is very in demand, so they expect that to fill up very quickly.
That's a good idea.
Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Okay. Overall, everybody okay with it?
Been there 32 years, I didn't even know we had property over there.
All right. So there's no objection at this point from on the concept on item number 4. So with that, let's move into item number 5, will be a discussion of a concept plan for the development of Town Center 2. Trustee Brockman and Ms. Engel. And this is the development, as everybody may be aware, behind, right out here behind Town Center. This will tie in Town Center 1 and Fox Bend. So, Trustee Brockman, anything you want to kick it off with?
Just a couple of comments. We had a good discussion that night, and I was a bit surprised that the 2004 plan looked almost exactly as the 2024 plan. So whoever designed 2004 was right on top of it. So, but you go ahead, Natalie. You can cover this a lot better than me.
So Lennar is here this evening. They are proposing to do a single-family development for Town Center 2. Basically, as Trustee Brockman mentioned, we originally discussed this property back in 2004. It was brought forward as a concept plan. Then it was annexed in 2006. The original plan called for 40 single-family dwellings. At that point, we approved the plat as well as some design guidelines. This is the original concept plan from 2004 that was done by Distinctive Homes. So the area that became Town Center 1 is shown in yellow on the left, and then Town Center 2. To the south, you see the Village Hall, and there was going to be a Kohl's and a bunch of retail along Jefferson. So that's changed a little bit. Here is the single-family residential portion of this. The part in the colored is Town Center 1. In orange, there's phase 1, and then the other colors are phases 2, 3, and 4. That'll make sense to you later. And then Town Center 2 is shown on the right-hand side. The preliminary plan, as Trustee Brockman mentioned, called for 140 single-family units. Lennar's plan is fairly similar. Theirs calls for 139 single-family units. They've made a couple of small changes that I'll go over. In terms of stormwater, they've made some refinements. Looking at it, it appeared that there should be some pond area in the northeast corner, so they've shifted some of those lots to the south and added some pond area in the northeast corner. The arrows point to the different ponds. Essentially, there'll be 3 areas, the largest of which will be at the south end. And that pond will be able to accommodate the Grand and the Hamptons property once it's fully developed. Vehicular access to the property is primarily from Windstone. Windstone will continue through the it'll be built out to continue through the property. Originally, it was planned to be a boulevard cross-section, but in looking at it, it makes more sense to do it sort of as a tree-lined avenue, so it'll look much similar to what's through Walnut Trails and through Kipling Estates. The medians obviously will stay, and then it'll get a little bit smaller and have trees on either side and be very similar to what you see south of us here. That'll connect ultimately through a little bit of the Meyer Farm and into the property that was part of Heritage Mills and take us all to Black Road. There will be an access point at Peyton Terrace, which will take their residents to Windstone as well as to Town Center 1. And Country Drive will connect so that you can go through Fox Bend. People will be able to get to River Road as well. Obviously, most of the traffic will go down to Windstone and Jefferson, which is where there'll be a traffic signal. And throughout the development, they're planning complete streets that meet the village's standards and are basically the same thing as was in Town Center 1. You may have heard some talk about some developers who looked at this property before and were thinking of undersized roads. That's not the case with us. Landscaping, this is just a very basic concept plan they've drawn up. They'll be doing all the typical landscaping. There will be landscaping along the ponds, landscaping along Windstone Drive, parkway trees, 1 for every 50 feet, so like 1 per lot, probably about 3 per corner lot. And then the houses will be landscaped along the front, and if they're a corner lot, they'll also be landscaped along the side with their foundation landscaping. This is just a really quick view of all the houses they're proposing. There are 6 models total they're proposing. 2 of them are ranch models with 3 elevations each. 4 of them are 2 stories with 3 elevations each, so 18 total. They all have some brick. A little bit of the brick has increased a little bit since we actually met with the Planning Commission, and I'll just be going through those in greater detail as we go forward. But I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what we're talking about. Lot standards are pretty typical, 25 foot from the front, 30 foot, 35 foot or quarter of the property from the rear. Very typical stuff, typical lot coverage, typical, driveway width. All the driveways will be concrete with very typical setbacks. I'm going to go through all the standards because I know that Town Center has some standards. We talked about them when we talked about the Hampton. So I'm going to do a little comparison of what they're proposing compared to what's approved. So just to kind of recap, there was a concept plan in 2004, and based on that concept plan, they turned around and did 2 different annexation agreements. In 2004, there was an annexation agreement for Town Center 1. In 2006, there was an almost identical one for Town Center 2, which we're talking about. Town Center 1 got started, Distinctive started building out houses. The recession hit, other developers came in, and there was an amendment, which is what most of Town Center 1 built under. So I'm going to kind of compare what the original approvals are, what Town Center 1 built under, and then what's proposed. So those are the 3 columns you'll kind of consistently see. So originally, we called for 1,800 square foot ranches. Town Center 1, 2 through 4 did 1,700 square foot. They're proposing a little bit larger at 1,850. Single family homes were at 2,400. That dropped to 2,200 for parts of Town Center 1. They're proposing 2,150, a little bit smaller. And at the bottom, you can see the list of their houses. I mean, for the most part, they're right around what the requirements are. The thought with the Town Center development was that it was going to be very hometowny with a lot of porches and things like that. The original approvals, it called for 25% of the houses to have a front porch, balcony, or covered stoop, and they said they have to be 6 feet deep. They didn't say how wide. When the other developers came in, they realized, hey, that doesn't match their thing, so they said, hey, lose the 6 feet, they have to be 10 feet wide. Lennar also has their own elevations, so what they're proposing to do is just to bring all of their elevations to you and have them approved. I did do the math. We take 6 by 10, multiply them together, 60 feet, if we assume that's a decent sized porch. 45% of the elevations meet that, 38% meet either the standard from the original or the standard from the second phase of the agreement. So they're going to be a lot of porches. Roof material, they're going to do the same thing that was done in most of Town Center 1, which is architectural shingles. So very typical of what we see throughout Shorewood. The front elevation originally started off being fairly strict, where 75% of the houses had to have at least 50% brick on the front elevation. Then when Ryan came in and Meadowbrook came in and D.R. Horton came in, the standard for them to build was that 75% of the houses had to have at least 50% brick, or they had to have a 3-foot wainscot on the bottom and 2 different colors of siding and 2 different styles of siding. Lennar has their elevations that they've proposed. They all have some brick on them. We kind of fleshed this out since we met with the Planning Commission. Basically, they'll either have the minimum 3 foot of wainscot, and for the houses that have that minimum, they've extended it across the entire front facade with 2 different colors and textures of siding, or they'll have some wainscot and more brick than is required. And they'll have the elevations again as part of the PUD, and I'll show you all of those. The big change is with regard to siding. In Town Center 1, all the houses were built with hardy board siding. They are proposing to use vinyl siding as well. So that's a big ask and one that they feel they need in order to make this a viable project. There were a lot of standards in the agreement for special types of lots, for through lots, which is lots that back onto a pond or that back to a street, which would be Windstone in this case. The original approvals called for window grids, shutters, and either a back of the house that jogs or changes the plane of the roof. What they're proposing is to do window grids, to do shutters, or if you prefer to do like an elevated trim package where they would trim out the windows, and then one of changing the planes of the houses or changing the roof planes. So there would be some variation, but not quite the same. For key lots, which are corner lots for the most part, the requirement is for brick or masonry on the side elevation. Usually it's a wainscot, they've agreed to that. And for walkouts, the walkouts in Town Center 1 all have brick on the basement elevation. They're not sure if they're going to be able to do walkouts, it depends on the engineering, but if they do walkouts, they'd like to do drop siding instead, where they take the siding down to the bottom, but not necessarily make that brick. this screen, I show a picture of Walnut Trails Pond. So I think that's a good example of what it looks like with the walk-ins, with the drop siding and some of the elevated trim. And then the purple lots on the map show which ones would be considered either key lots or through lots.
For the proposed where it says shutters / elevated trim, is that or it's shutters and elevated trim?
It's or, so right now the agreement says shutters. I guess it's a question for you. I personally prefer elevated trim. They're willing to do shutters, they're willing to do elevated trim, or they're willing to do a mixture of both. So if you have an opinion, we'd love to hear it. Are we good with the or, and they choose?
I don't even know what elevated trim is.
So they usually put like a 3-inch trim around the side of the window, or they'll put like a little cap with like a piece of molding or something like that, just dress it up. I think it depends on the architecture of the house and kind of personal preference, so.
Yeah.
If you have any thoughts, let me know. Garages, the whole thought for the original development was gonna be that, the garages should be set back to, not really take up much of the front facade. So the standard was, 80% can't project more than 5 feet, 10% had to be set back. Everybody had to have 2-car garage and windows or panels. What they're proposing is basically, a situation where they all have at least a 2-car garage, an option for a 3-car garage. Half the models have a standard 3-car garage. They'll all have some panels or windows, but the garage projections vary based on the model. So I'll go through that so you can see it. There will probably be some more projecting ones, but not all of them for sure. Accessory structures, same thing as Town Center 2. They'd be able to have a 5-foot max fence. It could be vinyl or aluminum. Only in-ground pools, no above-ground pools, no sheds and other detached accessory structures. These are the models. I'm going from smallest to largest. The Sienna is the smallest ranch. So there are 3 styles that they are proposing. 1,866 feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Standard is a 2-car garage. The garage sticks out about 4 feet. And this has a covered stoop that's about 28 square feet, so that wouldn't count as a porch. Ontario is the smallest 2-story. This is a 2,152 square foot 2-story home. There are options to have 2 or 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 2-car garage with the option of a 3rd. This garage sticks out about 14 feet. They all have a little bit more than just the wainscot in terms of brick, between 25 and 45%. And the C and D models both have a porch, a decently sized porch too. Lennard's Ridgefield model is the larger of the ranches. This is a standard 3-car garage ranch. It's 2,172 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. The garage is slightly set back. I should have said 3-car garage, not 2-car garage. This has quite a bit of brick, ranges from 50 to 90%. And when I'm calculating the brick in this case, it's quick and dirty math, not counting the windows in the garage door. They all have a 6x6 covered stoop, not a traditional porch. The Brooklyn model is sort of the medium-sized 2-story. It's 2,448 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage with the option of a 3rd-car garage, and that garage does project onto the driveway. There are the 3 elevations, 2 with the wainscot and the 2 types of siding, 1 with about 35% brick. The C and D models do have a front porch. And then this is the Galveston, it's my favorite. It's 2,612 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 3-car garage. The garage sticks out about a foot depending on which model it is. And they, C and D models also have porches. The Raleigh is the biggest model at 2,907 square feet, 4 or 5 bedroom home. There's the option, it's 4 bedrooms upstairs, there's the option of a 5th bedroom downstairs, 2.5 bath. It's a 3-car garage, sticks out just a foot. There is a porch option, and that's the elevation that's C. So 2 with the wainscot, 1 with a little bit more brick. Those are the models. And if you have any questions of me, I'm here, and Lennar also has a presentation as well that they're going to do and kind of explain a little bit more about the market and their thoughts.
Can I ask this one? It looks as though with this quick presentation, and I did sit in on the PZ committee presentation as well. It looks as though that this project compares very favorably to phases 2 through 4 of TC1.
It does. I mean, the biggest difference is the the hardy board versus the vinyl.
Okay.
But, you know, a lot of the architectural details, size, style of the houses, I think the style is pretty similar to Meadowbrook. I'm sure Lennar, you know, knows that their style's distinctive, but they have a lot of the same types of elevations,
Right.
you know, garage wide and stuff like that. I think it compares pretty well.
Okay, very good. And then, the average, what do you think of the average cost of the homes will be?
I do have a slide on that, but it's
Very
gonna be
good.
about $450,000.
All right. Go right ahead.
Let's let him give his little present, that way we can let the board that way we can bounce off everything.
Perfect. That's awesome. My name's Eric Prechtel. I'm with the law firm of Rosenova and Whitaker. I'm here with me this evening is Todd Clevin, Director of Land Acquisition at Lennar, and then one of their land consultants, Kellogg. Again, thank you, Natalie, for that very thorough and excellent presentation and your help along getting us here to this evening. I'm just going to be brief, and I'll turn it over to Todd. He'll introduce himself, and then we'll turn it over to you guys for any questions. So by way of background, Lennar is a well-respected home builder that's been building homes since 1954. They are the second largest U.S. builder by revenue and closings. They operate in 41 U.S. markets and are active in 39 communities in Illinois, Northwest Indiana. Last year, they built almost 1,500 homes in the region. More locally, Lennar has been successful in communities around Shorewood. For example, Joliet, Batavia, Oswego, Yorkville, Naperville, Plainfield, Manhattan. It did come up at Plan Commission, the Edgewater community at the corner of, I think, River Road and Black Road. Lennar did build a number of homes in the Edgewater community, though not all of them. I think they only built about 15. They did build the Landmark series, what is actually what we're proposing for here. There are slightly different models being offered, but the overall series is the same. So one thing that we like to do before we go into any community is that we look do our homework and ensure that the homes are consistent with what's already being offered in and around the development. So what we did here is we pulled home sales for the last 2 years for Town Center 1 and then Fox Bend. So if you look in the first column, there were 24 sales in the last 2 years. The average sale price for those homes was $445,000 with an average price per square foot of $161. We did the same thing for Fox Bend. A much smaller sample set, only 4 home sales in the last 2 years with an average sale price of $316,000 and an average price per square foot of $148. So then if you look at what we were proposing, the average sale price we were expecting is $450,000 and then an average price per square foot of $191. Natalie already touched on these earlier, but this is just a side-by-side comparison of the 6 models that we're offering. So again, about 1,900 square feet to 2,900 square feet. We are offering 2 different ranch options, 3 to 4 bedrooms with a price range of about $420,000 to $485,000. And then something else we like to do is we like to pull the household income, or the average household income for households within a 5-mile radius of the proposed development. So as I mentioned earlier, we're offering homes that average $450,000. So once you calculated the estimated mortgage rate, it comes out to be about $3,000. Obviously, that changes with the interest rates and how much money you're putting down. But yeah, we anticipate about $3,000 per month. And the households that can typically afford that without being debt burdened have an income of about $100,000 to $200,000. So if you look at the 2 lines that I've highlighted, it actually shows that homes in the area with that level of income, or households in this area with that level of income, come out to about 40% of the population. So that's really in line with the product and the homes that we're offering. Here's just some photos of the interiors of homes that Lennar's built. These last couple slides are just overlaid the proposed development just to show how it connects and works with the existing Fox Bend to the east and then Town Center 1 to the west. I think that's it. So with that, thank you. We're excited to be in Shorewood. I think we know we're here just for concepts, so what we're looking for is feedback, honest feedback. Assuming it goes well, I think we're looking to get a formal submittal and amendments to PUD in the door in short order.
Thank you. Just to sum it up real quick, my name is Todd Clevin, Director of Land Acquisition for the record. Offices reside at 1700 East Gulf Road in Schaumburg, Illinois. Natalie's probably tired of me saying this, but first and foremost, I just have to commend her. I mean, she's the reason we're here. She really is. And I noticed that you're actually on Comcast TV, and if anybody sees her in other municipalities, there's not much reason to have me working for the anymore. Every municipality did the job she does. Really, really good. Mr. Silverman, we had lunch with him. We've been looking at this property for probably over 2 years now, or approaching 2 years, where we actually walked away from it. And I consider the property frozen. I do respect the vision. I do respect the planning. But I do consider the project frozen. And we have been looking at this. I think we now have a plan in front of you that would unfreeze it. And what I mean by frozen is it's definitely a product of the recession. You know, the recession came about, interest rates have been declining. They've actually been declining my entire career. I'm going on my 29th year. This is the first time I've seen interest rates go up in my career. So it kind of shows you how long this trend has been taking place. If we couldn't underwrite it a year and a half ago, we had a very hard time and would not be able to underwrite it now. And the difference is a 3.5% to an 8% loan. Fortunately, Lennar, and the reason we're thriving in this industry or this market is that we're able to buy our loans down and have our own mortgage company. So we are currently giving large incentives and we're able to buy the loans down just to keep building through this economic time. So with that, we work very diligently with your staff, with Natalie, with your city attorney, and just basically taking the temperature of the village. What are we willing to give up as far as the existing PUD? How can we just bring our product in without having to go back to the drawing board and redesign product just to fit in? That's what we're presenting you this evening. We're able to bring the landmark product in. We're currently not proposing the landmark product over 10% of our communities. Everything is our first entry product that we're building in other communities just because we have to find and maintain affordability. But I'm personally attached to this piece just for working on it so long, and we feel that we can make it work with landmark by reducing the request of hardy board. That's about a $16,000 increase. If we were to put hardy board on these homes, we're just going to turn right around and give it away on top of the $50,000 incentives that we're seeing right now, as well as buying a loan down. When we buy a loan down, we still have to pay for that. It's about $40,000 to $50,000 a home. Again, we're trying to find ways to soften some of those incentives, but it's with affordability and it's with lower end product. But fortunately right now with the product that we're offering, it does work here. And the concessions that we're asking for, I feel, are not extreme. I think that the aesthetics and the way the community will flow, the average person won't know that it's different than Town Phase 1, but it definitely will have vinyl siding. We won't have the restrictions as far as the garage setbacks, so on and so forth, but I am very proud of the series that we're able to bring in here. So with that, we'll open up any questions that you may have.
What's the likelihood, do you have any marketing around the likelihood of upgrade from, whatever the upgrades are, but let's start with vinyl. Do you have any marketing that way that tells you that 15% of the potential of the buyers might land with an upgrade to hardy, to whatever?
And we are an inventory builder, and we're about 80% inventory. So what that means is you basically pull on a car lot and you buy your car. Same thing with the houses. So we'll come in here and we'll pull 20 building permits, and we'll always stay ahead of the game, 20, 30 homes in production at once. But we do, not so much now, prior to the interest rate increasing, we do have those buyers that we will pre-sold and do a dirt sale. We will offer them upgrades, and that's where you would see our elevation C and D come into the picture. But we're going to maintain the elevation B to meet the brick requirements and the key lots and through lots. But we will offer those upgrades, but I don't see in this current economic time many people requesting those.
Okay, and how long will the project be roughly to build out 140 homes?
140, I would anticipate probably 3 a month. We're going to push and try to do 4 a month. So what is that math?
Not long.
A couple of years, 3
35
years?
months, so 3 years exactly.
Okay, and when would you, if it's a go, when would you get started?
If it's a go, and I'm glad you asked that question, if we leave here with this is well received, I'm going to direct our attorney to turn right around and start and working with Natalie, and either we're going to amend the PUD or we're going to reinstate or restate it. And I'd like to be back in front of you as early as next month if we can make that happen, but I'm guessing it's probably going to be 60 days by the time we go through the public notice and the application process. But we're running simultaneous with that. We will release our consultants, we'll do the wetland, we have to start over completely, and even if it was shovel-ready, just with Lennar's procedures, we still have to kind of reinvent the wheel as far as the environmentals, the soil and the wetlands, drain tile investigation. And to your point earlier, that it mimics the previous developer's layout, it does. You know, it's fully engineered, it just has not been reviewed or approved. So we will first come in and amend the PUD, and we'll come right around and do our preliminary plan approval, or preliminary PUD. At that time, if the village is willing to cooperate, we will also ask for an early grading permit. If we're granted that, we'll move forward, close on the property, and we can even start moving dirt this year, and then probably put pipe in during the fall months. I don't know if we would see asphalt this year. I'd like to, because this is not in our current business plan. If I'm able to get asphalt down this year, it's all upside for us. But I don't know if we can move that fast. What we're looking at, this is going to be June 1st, probably be in front of you in August, September. We might just come in and put some pipe in the ground this year, but I would like to see us get asphalt. That's moving pretty quick.
Thank you. This looks like a good project.
I appreciate that.
Would this be done over a couple of phases, essentially?
Can we go back to that? To answer your question, yes, I was just going to try to get you a better idea of what the baseline would be. And I didn't speak to the Avenue Road, you know, by the fact your vision is now an avenue versus a boulevard, that's about $1 million in savings, but still, this is $1 million road, if not more, that we can't recoup. So that's just $1 million that we're putting into the project without a return. Everything does flow south, so the ponds would have to go in first. So if we did do this in phases, and since it's all one product, which I mean by one product is just one single family series, we would probably bisect it in half. So we would do the south half, pave that, and as we're paving that, we typically would just continue and move forward with the infrastructure on phase 2, and then we would pave phase 2 the following season. But we wouldn't mass grade the entire site at once.
I think it's a good product. I like the fact that you guys were receptive to the comments from planning and zoning. You've already added some brick to it, so those comments are received. Brick concrete driveways. It's a separate HOA. I think this becomes a good blend from Town Center 1 to Fox Bend. I think it's a great transition. I think it will blend and fit in well.
Appreciate your support on that here.
Yep, go ahead.
On the, what is our standard, Natalie, for the parks, the size of the park? I'm looking at, when you look at, I see they added a park over here, but then on the other side where quite a few homes, there's nothing over there. So they're gonna, the existing park doesn't even have enough parking to handle these people. So shouldn't there be one over here?
You know, the original plan did not call for a park. It called for, you know, green space around the pond, and for a lot of the park, you know, park traffic to be taken by the community park over at Town Center. It didn't call for a park, so we haven't asked them to add one. I would like to think they're gonna walk to the Town Center Park, but.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
That
lot
might
of
be
houses
wishful
over
thinking.
here with nothing, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. I mean, this is for 140 homes, you know, there's a lot of developments that are bigger in Shorewood that don't have a park for it. You know, especially with the Town Center Park being so close. I think it's pretty typical. But we didn't even visit the idea of the park because the approved preliminary plat did not include one.
Yeah. But I mean, if we get to Hampton someday, I mean, that current park isn't gonna be able to handle those people, I don't think. It's too
Too small, you think?
Huh?
I mean, that's a good question. We can get the opinion of the Parks and Rec people, and see what they think. The Town Center Park is a pretty substantial park, so, you know, it's got a lot of different amenities and stuff like that, and they have access to the Village Hall parking lot behind the building as well as the stuff in front, and then there's so many paths that lead people to it that I think that, you know, people are probably more likely to walk and bike to Town Center Park than they are to other parks, so I tend to think that, you know, in my professional opinion, and I'm not a parks planner, but in my professional opinion, I think it's big enough to handle it. We could certainly probably look at the idea of maybe putting some, you know, small amenity over by the pond, some benches, maybe something small if they're amenable to it.
Maybe move where they have earmarked for a park over to the other side.
I don't think there's an earmark for a park.
That's what it says over here.
That's currently in Town Center 1.
That's
Yeah, that's interesting.
So this community will be constructed with a walking bike path. It will get you from point A to point B. We'll actually dive into that a little bit more and see how that fits the configuration. If this community did not have an amenity, we would not have looked at it. We will not build a community this size without some sort of an amenity. The fact that you have the town center amenity was a huge attraction for us to continue making the numbers work on this, and the walkability to it. I mean, that's looking like every bit of 5 to 10 acres. Open space.
It's a nice park.
And just also pointed out that Kids Corner in Fox Bend is very accessible to this.
I'm curious, trustee Chapman and trustee Brockman, what's your thought on this? You guys helped put together the original town center.
Oh, I think it's wonderful that somebody wants to finally get going here and, get moving along. The small little things that they talk about, that they need a stick and seat on, I find absolutely no problem with, especially in this day and age and in this economy, what's going on. I'd love you to start turning dirt over there next week.
We would appreciate that.
Will they have concrete driveways?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Natalie put that in the
They love
presentation.
concrete.
We did underwrite the concrete driveways. You know, that's a good question, because everything's just buckets. I mean, if we wanted asphalt driveways, you know, you gotta take it from one and put it in the other. You know, and the fact that we're able to make all this come together with the landmark series, with that off-site $1 million road. You know, if it wasn't for all that, I could give you gold hardy siding, you know, where's it stop? So the hardy siding is the biggest reason that we're here this evening. You know, that is a showstopper, as we indicated last meeting.
Scott or Tony, any thoughts, comments?
I wish the boulevard would continue, I like the plan, like, so, you know, and I was against the Hamptons project for various reasons, but like, I like the Hardy Board siding. I live in Town Center 1, so I live in the Hardy Board group, and I know that came up at planning and zoning, and I feel this is a little bit different than when that came before the board before not being there, but, you know, they were looking to maybe get rid of Hardy Board siding in a development that was already started and already had Hardy Board. Like, now this is it's a separate neighborhood, right? So it's kind of a different entity. I don't think it really impacts anyone. I think the monotony is like a big thing. So you mentioned that elevations C and D are upgrades if people come in that 20%. So everything else is going to be only A and B elevations.
You know, the crystal ball unfortunately will not give us that answer, but just be straight with you, we're gonna be majority Bs. When we panel our inventory homes, when I use the word panel, it just means as we put them together and determine the colors, it's majority the B elevation. But if for some reason the market conditions will allow for C and we're not discounting another 50 grand to get rid of it, we'll easily go into the C. We just need that flexibility.
What I like about the 3-year kind of build out of this thing, estimated 3 years or so, is that things can change. The economy can change, and it can change. Nothing ever stays the same. It can get better, and more consideration for C and D or what have you, different upgrades could come into play. That's what I like about this project. A lot.
I guess one other thing to add is with the exception of the Ridgefield, which isn't actually a landmark, it's one series above it, there's no A's. So Ridgefield has an A, but it's a higher end, but there's no A's. So there's a whole part of Lennar's series that is totally plain, no brick, no trim. I mean, not totally plain, they're still nicer homes, but they're not building them here. So they're only building, you know, B, C, and D.
So how do they make the no monotony rule if they're all elevation B? How many models are there? 6?
There's 6. So that, I mean, there will have to be, as they're doing them, there will have to be some change of elevation at some point, right? It's not going to be
We'll have a
all
little
B's.
anti-monotony that'll be included in the PUD, where the homes right next to each other and diagonally across the street can't be the same color or possibly the same elevation. We'll dive into that as well, but yeah, we will need some sort of an anti-monotony. You know, this is a raw piece of land. I would be here with a totally different series, and actually, I'll share this with you. You're going to see me much sooner with that particular product, a different piece of land in Shorewood that we control. We're currently moving forward with our due diligence, and I'm excited to present that one to you. We'll discuss that at a later date, but you're going to see the true market conditions when we bring that one to you.
Tony, anything?
No, I like the idea, because economically the fact that you already have models that'll fit, and you don't have to go redesigning and a bunch of engineering, which is gonna save you money. It's gonna help us because we're gonna finally get that development going. The only, thing that I kind of was concerned a little bit about is when you look at, phase one, they have restrictions and it's specified the percentages. It's kind of, on everything we have on the proposed, it's many of the models will have this. And you're not getting, we're not restricting you or putting any standards on how many have to have that. So we're leaving that up to you to make sure that enough of them meet the requirements so it fits in with the
That's what we're asking
whole
for.
idea.
With the
But
exception of the
all
key
the
lots
things
and the
you
3
list
lots.
here are mostly, it leaves it to your discretion what you want to do. We're not restricting you to say you have to have 25% brick or 50% brick. So my only concern would be is that you would live up to the standard to keep the standard flow of Town Center 1 and 2.
So you'll not only be protected by the language within the PUD, but the architecture itself will be attached to the PUD as well. So if for some reason Doomsday were to come, that architecture is part of that PUD. So if somebody were to grab it from us and try to finish at a later date, they'd have to be right back in front of you presenting their product.
To that point, trustee Luciano's point, do you have a process in managing the monotony aspect of this? What is your process?
So that anti-monotony diagram will be part of the PUD. So as the permits come in, we will already make sure that it meets that, but then your staff will also review that to make sure it meets it as well before they issue the building permit. Okay.
Almost all of our PUDs and subdivisions have the same anti-monotony clause where you can't have the same house on either side or directly across the street from a house that's the same elevation of the same model. Now, and Scott, you brought this up, we have a developer in town who has some houses that are different models, that are awfully similar to each other. And that's why I figured, we would put these all up on the screen and in your packet so you can see them, so you can see, what the different elevations look like, so you can see what could go next to each other. And there have been some updates. We actually photoshopped some extra brick on stuff, so I'll send you the latest greatest. So you can look at and see what's the worst case scenario of what goes next to each other. And we'll also check colors and things like that too.
But can we get maybe, if we're really truly focusing on one elevation, at some point, it doesn't have to be now, but can we show us the 6 that are gonna be built? Because I'm somewhat envisioning that it's gonna be the same 6 houses.
Sure. I see what you're saying.
And maybe just different colors. And that's where they have the anti-monotony rule, but I can drive through the back of my neighborhood and the houses all look the same. So that's my concern, and I guess that's my question. I know the Hardy Board is.
They may all be colored. I don't think everything's colored, but we do have, I hope I shared that with you, Natalie, where we do have 11 by 17 of all the black and white elevations, and you can just look right down the column. But the anti-monotony, Mr. Ramos, you and the mayor would not be able to wear the same suit or the same tie, but Tony could wear the same suit, just a different color type of thing.
Sounds good.
So generally speaking, everybody supportive of them moving forward? Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, the one last question.
Sure.
Tom mentioned it. If you decide to go with this and it goes, you will get started right away. It's not gonna, we're gonna be in a position.
I'm going as fast as I can.
It's not gonna prevent you
If
from.
you like special meetings, they're going to special meetings.
You've got your finance and everything.
Yeah, we're self-financed.
If it's a go moving dirt this year yet, that's what you said.
Sure.
That sound about right?
That's
Does the
exciting.
pond have to go in first?
That's part of the build.
Because that needs to be the drainage.
Yeah.
And then will the path go in? And I know I'm asking because I think the residents are aching to have more paths. Like, will the pond and the path go in while you're building so that can be usable?
So the pond would definitely go in first, but that's part of the mass grading where the stormwater goes. The path, obviously, we want to put the path in as soon as we can, but we also want to make sure that we don't block ourselves off with construction. So I would say once the homes are constructed along that south road, the path would go in. That path would probably go in 6 months after we break ground.
Because you said that would be their first phase, that's most likely.
And it's, so right now, we haven't, so I didn't talk about the paths and sidewalks a lot because we haven't really been able to see exactly what they're gonna look like, what's gonna be feasible and stuff like that, just because the engineering is not that far along. We know that they're going to have to, extend the bridge that goes over the little pond area or creek. And, you know, the idea of, you know, do we put that there and stuff like that came up. You know, I told Todd, as far as I'm concerned, it absolutely has to go in that area. So they're gonna tweak it, see where the pond can go, make sure everything works out, and then when we bring it back to you, it'll be with the preliminary engineering done, absolutely sure where everything is gonna go. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. Just to add a little more color to it, that culvert that is currently under the avenue, half-built road, is permitted by an Army Corps item permit as well, or an Illinois permit, that has expired, so we have to renew that. So I don't know the length of even that renewed, so we might have to avoid that area until that permit allows us to go in there and extend that culvert. Or we're hoping it might not have to be extended, and we'll look into that as well. And one of the reasons that it wouldn't need to be extended is if we're able to traverse that bike path elsewhere.
So we just have to
So
figure
those are
that
the
part
things
out.
we're looking to do.
So where the boulevard currently ends, right after the town hall parking lot, is that gonna be the last island, I guess, as far as the boulevard?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is pretty similar to what you see going south, where it connects down.
Yeah, well, comparing it to the town.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, well, at least we've got support from the concept plan. We'll let you, work on bringing your engineering and
Yes, that's
moving
the
into
goal,
your,
to leave here
moving
with
into your next phase.
to leave here with some sort of camaraderie, or, you know, a win-win feeling, and, you know, I'm comfortable enough as a director of consulting to move forward, and we'll work closely with Natalie and your attorney, and hopefully be back in front of you in, you know, I'm guessing 60 days at the very earliest. We'll see how that goes. The engineering's pretty much ready to be submitted once we tweak those items that we talked about. But no, very, very nice meeting here, appreciate your time, and look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move into department reports, building,
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report.
community development.
A couple things, we've got a couple things going on in the pipeline. I think that, people are tired of waiting to watch the interest rates go down, and we're starting to itch to get some things done. So we've got a couple projects going on. Next month, we'll be coming forward with Dollar Tree. They're gonna go next to Aldi. We're gonna be doing a conditional use permit for a business called We Rock the Spectrum, which is a kids' gym and sort of party place. Mr. Slavic, who was here earlier, has filed a concept plan for his property at Sile Road and Frontage. And we expect that there will be a senior housing developer who's going to submit something for you to look at as well.
Where's the kids' gym gonna?
So it's in Shorewood Commons 2. If you were to go directly across the street from America's Best, there's that unit that's been vacant for a few years. It's gonna go there. And we actually had 2 kids' play places looking at it, and they were.
And remind me, the senior care?
The senior care is looking at various spots. We don't have an application yet. The last proposal we saw was for a location on Black Road. They had previously been looking at one at Jefferson, so they're looking at a couple different spots. So we're hoping to bring them forward with a concept plan soon, so you can take a look at it.
All right, thank you. Moving to finance.
Thank you. The village's auditors will be on site the day after Memorial Day, the 28th. They'll finish out that week and we'll be rolling right along. So if you have any comments or questions directly for them, you should have received some communication from them already. Their contact information is there if you've not already returned that. But that's what we got cooking right now. Thank you.
Sounds good. And we'll move into parks.
Thank you. We'd like to thank everyone who attended our Earth Day, Arbor Day event, as well as the River Sweep. That was very successful for our first year. We look forward to being a host site for this event in future years. It's a Conservation Foundation event to help give the river, multiple communities take part in it on the same day at the same time every year. We'd also like to invite everyone to our Memorial Day ceremony that will be taking place here at 9 a.m. on Monday, May 27th at our Veterans Memorial. And then also, our summer newsletters are now out and registration is open, so be sure to check those for information on all of our summer events and programs, including barbecue and brews on June 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to let everybody know that this Friday is our annual Cop on Rooftop event at both of our Dunkin' Donuts locations, or Dunkin' locations, starting at 5 a.m. on Friday. So Mr. Brockman, you wake up that early, come on out at 5 o'clock, we'll be there, up on the roof, collecting money for Special Olympics Illinois. Every penny we collect goes directly to the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works?
I have nothing additional, Mayor.
Pardon?
I have nothing additional.
No problem. The administrator is out with family this evening, so we do not have him. Or the trustee comments, trustee Amos.
No comment, thank you, Mayor.
Trustee Brockman.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next meeting will be June 5th, and Natalie kind of highlighted a few of the things we have coming. And I want to thank the board for their support for the new PZ member. And a little bit scary to think, but we could have a trifecta here this fall with the Y and Hamptons and Lennar. So we haven't been in that territory since about 2004 or 5. So
No, it's good to see some development here.
that's my report, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Carroll.
No comment.
Trustee Chett.
No comment.
Trustee Luciano.
The Citizens Advisory Committee will be meeting a week from this Thursday, which is the fourth Thursday of the month, and will be before the next board meeting, which falls on the fourth Tuesday. Again, I'm just mentioning that because a lot of people get confused because they think it's the last Thursday. But in any case, anyone interested in getting involved with the Citizens Advisory Committee can contact myself or anyone on the committee. Our information is on the village website.
Thank you. Trustee Selfridge. No comment, thank you, Mayor. No problem with that. Motion to go into executive session, discuss personnel, to consider employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. So moved. Motion Selfridge, second trustee Amos. Let's just go in the back room, and there'll be no action taken after executive. We will adjourn for executive. I apologize. Roll call for executive.
Luciano. Selfridge.
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
And Chapman.
Yes.
All right, we are in executive. No.